people don't respect people's nature because you got this going on. You got 4 different environments, and when these environments start coming close, they start overlapping over each other. Then you have a thing called tribal wars. Because now you're bringing your culture into another culture, and you're trying to overpower them, say, well, I don't like I said earlier, I don't like what you're doing. You need democracy. That's how you feel. You cannot come into my culture and judge my culture with your culture. You're not. Then now you're making me go. Exactly. So now you're trying to make me go against my natural nature. You know what I'm saying? Wu-nuwaup is our natural nature. So when people say, oh, y'all Egyptians don't practice black magic, but it's our natural nature. Only reason why you're saying that because I don't want to worship your magic and worship your God. Why should I want to give my spiritual energy to your God to power him up and you get all the benefits? You know what I'm saying? While I'm still sitting here eating out of the can and you eating caviar. You hear me? That ain't going to happen. And this is one of the reasons why they had a problem with the master teacher, because the master teacher would take us back into that state of mind. And with that, I have to pass the class over to my brother Samitik, oh boy, I can't believe it. Samitik, I can't even get up. Samitik, Sahitep Khalid. I don't know.
Yeah, can I go inside? Do you mind if I open up a couple of books real quick on that before we let it go to? One thing we want to make sure for the audience, you know, the internet audiences as well as, you know, being that you, I was just listening, right? And you kept saying the same thing. Yeah. You grab the brother Tim, I don't know his name. Yeah, I'm talking to you. And I'm talking to you for everybody here as well, because there's one thing I don't know if you realize. You kept saying a particular thing, and I want you to catch that. You said, okay, we speak in different tones and all that good stuff, and you said we're speaking in these different tones because, you know, the white man took us and he put us in these different places and all that good stuff. Do you realize what you're doing when you say that?
Yeah.
What?
Blaming.
No. You're accepting. You're accepting that we weren't already the originators on all the continents on the planet before it even split up.
Oh, yeah, but...
No.
Reality.
Not a but. We're talking about the reality.
Right.
We were here before there were even 7 continents. We are the original beings to the planet, everywhere on the planet. We're the original beings that were living under the waters before we were living on the lands on the planet.
But he repaid us.
No.
Yeah.
Because once again, see, when you say that, you still, look at how much power you got to be giving him in order for you to accept that as true.
Right. No, I understand.
No, listen, hear me. You know what I'm saying? One thing that our master teacher taught us, I'm not trying to be funny, but this is a reality. One of the sayings of the master, it's a small book. It says sayings of Dr. Malachi York, right? And I don't mean to say this to be disrespectful to you. I do mean to say it for you to think, right? The master says that the way we are made, right? We're made with 2 eyes. We're made with 2 ears. We're made with 1 mouth. So that means that we're supposed to look and we're supposed to listen twice as much as we speak. If we notice, a lot of times, because we like to argue, sometimes we like the way we sound. What will happen is we'll talk before we even hear what was said, so it's not clear when we walk off. And the only reason why I'm saying that to you is because as I kept looking at you asking the question, you kept saying, we speak differently because he took us here, because he took us there. No, don't you understand when we're sitting, we as Nuwaupians, number one, when our master teacher brought back all the information and affirmation to show and prove that we already were indigenous people and are indigenous people here in the state that we're standing in, right? We were already here. We weren't brought here. Some of us may have been brought here, right? Some of our people may be in jail now. Does that mean that we're all in jail now? No, it means that some of us have been kidnapped. One of us is kidnapped right now. Our master teacher is kidnapped right now, right? They didn't take us all with, they did, as far as we're concerned, because we want him back like yesterday. His liberation is our liberation, right?
Right.
But what I'm saying here is, you're talking about some events that occurred.
Right.
So when you're saying some events, you were taught by Caucasoids that those some events were the totality of events that has everything to do with our existence here now, which means you're giving them more power than they deserve. They're not even old enough. Let's think about it. The way Wu-nuwaup explains, they're not old enough to have had enough time enough to take us into all of the places where you find us. The original of every race that you find is dark. They didn't come first. They don't have enough power to do what we keep giving them the power to do. And once again, why do we accept that? It's again from the images of what we see. We saw it in a movie, so it must be true. We learned it while we were in elementary school, so it must be fact.
Right.
My little 4th grade white teacher told me that Christopher Columbus came over here in 1492. He sailed on Wu-nuwaup, brother.
That's it.
Right? So the fact that he came over here, he discovered America, the new world. Right? He found something that nobody knew was there. Right? He had to be smart. But then when you go back and you find out the story, you find out that no, he was lost. He thought he was going to India on a drug run. Right? He saw the dark people that were there. Because when you see the dark people in India are dark, aren't they? So the people that he thought he was in India. And then he confirmed it in his own mind that this must be India because look at the dark people that I see. Right? So he thought he was in India because the place or the description of people who he thought he was seeing was dark people that he thought he was in India to get to. So to this day, they carry a misnomer. Many of us carry a misnomer as Indian. You from the Caribbean. West Indian. Right? So somebody's mistake ends up going down in his story as a fact. You were never Indian. If we just talking about that place being India. So that's one fact. Wrong. Boom. You're wrong. All right? So then the next thing. If they were already there before Columbus got there, right? Slave trade ain't even happened in the 15th century, did it? All right, so what about those dark-skinned people that was already there when he got there? Right, so now what the master teacher's been doing, and let's set the record straight, he's been breaking this thing down for us so that we can break the spell off of ourselves. As long as we keep saying stuff like that, you're feeding the force of ignorance. Think about it. So you have to be responsible for the stuff that you allow to come out your mouth when you say that you stand as an intellectual, because you have some people who are going to listen to you. Right? So you got to remember, when I stand up here at this podium, I'm standing up here speaking from what I was taught from my master teacher. I have a responsibility. You understand? I'm just a student of my master teacher. So I have a responsibility that if I don't know the answer to a thing, I have to tell you straight up, I don't know. But one thing that I do know is that that's a lie for us to continue to accept that we are all brought somewhere by some man that's not even old enough. We're the originators. We are the original beings on the planet everywhere. Stop giving them that power. All right?
Yeah, well.
All right, then next. Now let's go to the next thing. All right, because we do accept that it's fact, do we not?
Oh, yeah.
All right, cool.
Book the record straight.
Go ahead. Go ahead. That's straight?
Set the record straight.
Yeah. You got the book?
Already, yeah.
All right, I'm saying, do you study the book? There's a difference between reading and studying. And I mean that for a reason, because we're at a point. I see you all the time, so I'm messing with you.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, because I know that we were all over, but there are very few, in his time that were taken over here. You know what I'm saying? The slave trade.
The slave trades.
Trades, yeah. So what I was trying to get to, the tones.
Okay.
Meaning, if I write a number 6, and I said, this person from America said this.
All right.
This person from that country said this.
All right.
Or there a certain way it was written in Egypt by people who was right.
See, now we're getting into a more direct question.
Right.
All right, so that's what we have to do. Like the master said, we got to move from being vague to being vivid. We got to understand, okay, what direction are you trying to take the question?
Right.
Right? All right, so first we got to move what we know to be false out of the way. That's what he's done with us. We moved the false things out of the way so that we can see. Like he told us, he said, in order for us to find out who we are, we first have to go through finding out what we're not. Right? All right, so here, now we're at this point when he starts talking about tones. Tones, as I wrote down earlier, tones and notes, that's the same word. They call that an anagram, right? Same letters, right? Tones, notes, you see same thing, right? All right. These are frequencies. This is vibration, right? Everything vibrates.
Right.
So if everything vibrates, that means everything makes a sound. Okay? All right. Now, when you were talking earlier and you were asking the thing about our practice, was our practice black magic? We're asking, okay, if you're saying that magic comes from the word magi, meaning wisdom or whatever, and you're saying that we are the black people and that's our wisdom, then I'll say, okay, yeah. But black magic is the term that goes along with that, you know, no, because that's something that somebody's wanting to call us or whatever. We said we're operating by our natural nature, right? We're doing things that goes in tune with our natural nature. Here's the thing that you have called cellular memory. You ever heard of that before? Cellular memory, you ever heard of that before? All right, you know about it. We'll retouch it, right? Let's say, for instance, you have a woman has a child, has a baby, right? All right, when she has that baby, she has 2 mammary glands, right? She has breasts, right? Because of her makeup, right, she's made up in a way to where her body is supposed to provide for that child, right? Now, it's all found right there within her breast, right there within that mammary gland, right? That's that source for that child to receive its provisions, right? To be fed, right?
Right.
You don't have to draw a map to the baby and say, in order for you to receive the nutrients that you need from your mother, I need you to turn your head there, and I need to give you the full formula as to what you're eating, how it's going to give you any kind, you know, you don't say I'm going to write out the mathematical equation of what breast milk does to your body, baby. You don't have to do all that. The baby knows where to get what needs to be gotten in order for it to survive by its natural nature. You didn't have to tell it nothing because it was already there. Now, what happens is when you start taking beings that have a nature and you take them out of their natural environment, and then you cause them to start acting out of their natural way, then what happens is you start to see things change in their natural body. I like animals. When I was growing up, I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian, right? Why is it that when you have killer whales, for instance, right? You ever see what happens when you capture a killer whale?
Right.
What happens?
They rebel against the close.
But what happens physically? What happens physically to the body?
They become.
That fin that's up on the top, right? It folds over.
Right.
That's a physical response to captivity. That is a genetic change based on captivity. Our master teacher has taught us that everything that you take into your body becomes a part of your DNA. What you watch, what you hear, what you eat, it all becomes a part of your DNA, right? So when you start seeing, okay, now, DNA, what is DNA made up of? DNA is made up of these amino acids, right? They are formulatedly set up, and it's set up in a mathematical nature, right? Like he said, it's very much like a computer. It's coded. Like the master teacher taught us, he said, if somebody asks you the question, who created you? What should your answer be if you say, who created you? Your DNA created you, because it was encoded in your DNA to make you what you became, right? But every time you end up taking things into your DNA, you change that formula, right? And if everything vibrates, right? And then vibration is mathematic, like we said, we mentioned that earlier, right? Whenever you're talking about tones, you're talking about frequency, which is found out and summized, or given a sum by number, right? So don't believe me, go check it out. If we're talking about music, you say, how are we going to go ahead and tune all these instruments for the orchestra? They're tuning it with a tuning fork of A that's tuned to 440 megahertz. Don't believe me, please go check it out, right? So it's mathematical. They know, okay, this is the rate at which these particular waves are oscillating, right? So it's math, right? If something happens and it changes it, it's no longer on that same number. It's out of tune. So therefore, it's no longer sounding the way it was intended to sound. Our master teacher taught us that our bodies are created in a way to where we're supposed to vibrate at a particular frequency. Because we're not inside of our natural environment, because we're not doing our natural things, because we don't speak our natural language, because we don't think in our natural mind, of course we start to have a physical correspondence to that goes against our natural nature. Because we're changing our DNA with this infection of this man infestation and his influence over the last 6,000 years. So that's what causes things to change, because even when you think about how you sound, the brother read it earlier when we was inside of the tones, sound, DNA, molecules, vibrational frequency, right? When he was talking about the nosology, he was talking about how when you're talking about the Caucasoids, because of the way that they speak through their nasal passages, right? This is a genetic thing that causes them to speak a certain way, so therefore they sound a certain way, right? It's still based on what? Genetics, right? So if we get put into a position to where our genetics begin to change because we're being influenced by them, then we begin to have changes as well. True or false?
True.
So therefore things change. The way that you sound has a whole lot to do with the size of your larynx. It has a whole lot to do with the size of your vocal cords. All of these things has got something to do with your genetics. True or false?
True.
And the master explained to us that we've been mixed up over all this time. We've been genetically mixed. Sexual situations have happened with our family. Some of us want to sit up there, like when you said it earlier, talk about which one of us is pure. You here. Let's be real. You're here.
Yeah.
There's definitely some genetics that needs to be cleansed. The master teacher, see, our ego would say something crazy like, look, man, I'm pure. Okay, just go over to Africa right now, jump in the water, just jump in. You know what I'm saying? The master teacher told us that right now, in the state that we're in right now, he said that if we was to just go straight over there right now, we wouldn't be able to live.
It's too hot.
No, it's not that it's too hot, brother. It's not that it's too hot. It's that our genetics have become weakened.
Right. To handle the heat.
Right, so that's why what you have to do, as the master teacher has been teaching us, is we have to put ourselves in the position to clean ourselves inside out and outside in. That's why, as Wu-nuwaupians, when we have our spiritual science of Wu-nuwaup, we have Pt.3, which gives us a way. What does that do? It gives us instruction as to how to correct ourselves, right? But then when we try to sit up here and pretend that we have the answers, rather than being students, you know what I'm saying? Of course we don't get the results because we don't apply the formula.
That's true.
You follow?
Yeah. It even goes back to the saying, you are what you eat.
Yeah, I said, as a matter of fact,
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like you said.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I used to be a bodybuilder.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
And I haven't worked out for like last 5 years.
Okay.
I haven't done anything. But I would go on a special diet
Mm-hmm.
to achieve muscle growth
Mm-hmm.
and at the quickest, time, right? And so it depends on what you eat, the amount, the way you work out and all that, you shape your muscles and stuff. So it's like rearranging the DNA, would say, or shaping stuff or doing something different. Just like today, you can tell by most of our brothers today, you can look at them and tell what food they're eating due to an animalistic nature. Just like when you eat, too much animal product, you act different, you sound different, you're gonna smell different. and somebody who is, let's say, a vegan, vegetarian. You agree?
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
like, goes back to
I was
you-
trying to figure out if that
No,
was
it
a
goes
question.
back to what you are, who you know.
You
It's
are
like
what you
it's-
eat,
You're
okay.
what you eat.
Yeah.
And
And the master is saying, just to make sure we're clear, you are what you eat, right? You are literally what you eat.
right.
Because once you've taken that into your DNA, now that's a part of who you are. It's a
Right.
part of what you are. Right?
Right.
That's so the master's telling us, okay, yeah, over here people say you are what you eat, and that's just a statement. No, we're talking about the science of it. No. You've taken in the DNA of this. You've got DNA, you take in this DNA, you put those two together, and now you are that too. Frankenstein, let's get it.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
All right, so the one thing here I wanted to make sure that I read as well. One thing that went along with what you were asking earlier too, the master teacher taught on, because you were talking about shaman, you were talking about voodoo and things of that nature, right? One thing that we have to bring into account is that we are and have always been animists. We understand that spiritual energy, spiritual beings are real. Just like we're talking about our ancestors, they're real. You mentioned something earlier about a pulverizer, right?
Right.
Even if you were to pulverize anything that's material, the reality of it is you still never destroy it,
Right.
right? No, not because of memory, because of energy. You can't destroy energy. You can only change its form, right? So it doesn't matter how much you pulverize anything, right? You still cannot destroy unless your definition of destroy means to destruct. You construct, build up. Destruct means to break down. So the worst that you can do is break it down. You cannot make it not exist. You understand?
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. But the master he's taught us that one thing that has happened when you're dealing in certain beings that require certain things, like for instance, our sisters and brothers dealing in Yoruba, I've never dealt myself personally, but as our master teacher has taught, what has happened is once they've given these names over to these particular beings, what he taught us was that many times what you're dealing with, whenever they start having these rituals and then they start utilizing the drums and the patterns in order to bring about a certain response, what you're actually dealing with is certain ones of their own ancestors who want to come back for certain purposes to do things that they love to do here on this physical plane. So for instance, you would have beings who would want blood from chicken spread out. They might just been I'm finna steal one from you. They might have just been a chicken loving nigga. Let's just be, you know what I'm saying? Let's just be straight up. Then you have those who are asking for tobacco and for liquor. So what you're saying is this was a being that was a wino. He liked to smoke, he liked to drink. Is that a supreme being? Think about it. Why would a supreme being be addicted to drinks and smokes? Why would you need that? If you're a supreme being, you're above that, why would you need that? You understand? So then that teaches you that this being is actually a lesser being. So the master explained that many times this is just their own ancestors wanting to come and experience life again, because they'll do that. Now here in the prism, if she's got this on the table, you want to make sure you pick this up. If you got Pt.3 or prism, right? I was just saying if you had it on there, if you would give me a thumbs up or whatever. But if you go to verse 175, it says that spirits will most likely take a liking to the person with the nature most relative to their own. If they were a drunk, they will try and make you a drinker. The same with lustful, they will make you a sex addict or whatever they like. They will or may also wish to torment someone's mind, and outsiders think that the person is crazy or depression and even dangerous. A spirit can give fake impressions or true ones. This depends upon the nature of the spirit's possession or possessing the person. That was verse 175 through 179. Now, when you go to verse 189, it says, and remember, well, let's go to 188 so we can go ahead and bring the thing that you said home. It says, in verse 188, remember, you become what you eat and drink. And remember, you must welcome evil into your life, your body, and have the power to prevent being overtaken by others. If you're in contact with your own salafu ancestors, they will come forth and protect you. If you reach out and ask them, that is our way as Africans. It's called animism, and you're called an animist. Contact with our salafu ancestors. Respect them, stay in touch with them. They will protect you as kapu, spirits, or tarafu, ghosts. Just as physical living beings have rules, limits, restrictions of their own, and those rules are binding by nature. So when you were trying to ask that a little bit earlier as far as that, just because you see spirits doesn't make them bad, and it doesn't make them good. Right? And then when you see these other people who are saying that they're contacting spirits and things of that nature, that doesn't mean that they contacted a good spirit or a bad spirit. When I'm in church and they say I caught the Holy Ghost, regardless of whether it was a good one or a bad one, it was dead. It died. But you know, I want to catch the Holy Ghost when I go to church. And they don't even, I was growing up in church. I didn't realize what we were saying. They're waiting for possession. Have you ever been in the church, and inside the church the preacher begins the whole praise and worship, watch it, it sets off, it's real ritualistic. But you'd have to be on the outside, or you'd have to be outside of mentality looking in to see it. But I mean, when you watch a church service, real talk, they start off asking for the Holy Spirit to come down. Please come down and touch us in here. You know, we ask for a move in here, a mighty move. We want you to come and touch us, God. Come into me. Right? I'm saying, that's the type of stuff that you see in Mortal Kombat. Be like, come into me and all this other stuff like that. You're still talking about possession. Ain't no way around it. And that's scary to think about. That's what we've been taught. We've been taught to say, okay, yeah. What you do when you convert to religion, when you convert to Christianity, you ask Jesus to come into your heart. So wait a minute. If Jesus is God, I came from God, I was made in the image and after the likeness of God, then shouldn't God already be in me? Why I gotta ask somebody else to come get in here? Right? You got to invite Dracula to come in your house too. So it's like, so whoa, wait a minute, let's put some parameters up right now. You know? I can't just let you just get in here in my secret place. That's not, you see what I'm saying? So when we start to ask the question, it becomes, some people look at us and say, okay, no, you crazy. They'll be like, no, wait a minute, let's think about that. Do you realize you're saying you want something that you don't know about, that's not already a part of you when you're supposed to be from God? Ain't God already supposed to be a part of you? So why you gotta ask for that? You see what I'm saying? So the master teacher has come giving us back our way. Our spiritual science is Wu-nuwaup, Pt.3, the way. So when you say, is our way black magic? Our way is Pt.3, the way, and it's our way. You dig? All right. Do we have any other? All right. We got any more questions for our pastor?
We got a few online questions. This is another online question from Stephen Cole. He asks, is the tide separate from the Homo erectus? Because I was under the impression that we evolved into Homo erectus.
Is the tall height different than the Homo erectus?
Separate from the Homo erectus.
Right, separate, right. Yes, and the reason why I said it like that is because I know that, stay tuned, because as we're getting more and more updates, we're getting more information about it, but we know that there's going to be some information that's coming. If you were at the ball, then you know that we've got books that are on the way, and we know that one of those particular books or the classes is on Bigfoot, and what it explains to you is that you have different scientific experimentation that was happening on this planet, which gave rise to different beings having different origins from different places. All right, so with that being the case, those particular beings over on that end were not the same as the Tahites, which came from out of the waters. If we go to Pt.3 formation, so we can talk about where we're coming from with this, right? He said he was under the impression that, say what he said the impression was again?
He said he was under the impression that we evolved into Homo erectus.
Okay. What we are going to find out with the information that's coming is that many of the pieces that we were looking at before, thinking that these particular beings were us because we were in the schools of particular religions, because we had to experience that particular school, we had to experience the school from inside. So when we were in the school of Sumerianism, as is explained here in the Wu-Sabat scroll on page 3, if you go to the Wu-Sabat scroll on page 3, it tells us real quickly that you should have mastered the knowledge compiled in the 3 books, the degree of Mosesism, the degree of Christism, the degree of Mohammedism, and with those 3, the rudimentary degrees of the lesser mysteries have become of age to move on from 3 to the 4 degrees of the middle chamber: Sufism, Kabbalahism, Magiism, and Sumerianism. Then on into the 7 degrees, which covered all of the Sumerian and Far Eastern studies, embodied in the Sons of Green Light, Sufi order, and the ancient and mystic order of Melchizedek, the Essene or Magi order. Completing those 4 degrees will now prepare you to open the 8th chamber on into the 9th chamber of the ancient Egyptian order. So just like the master teacher explained to us as far as when we were sitting down the holy tablets, he explained that it was still geared towards us while we were still in the school of Sumerianism. Now, if you're paying attention to what we're being taught, we're coming out of that, and with that, we're being updated with more information. And as we're being updated with more information, we're beginning to realize further that there were other experiments that were happening, and many of the experiments that we were speaking of and thinking of from the Sumerian point of view was not even actually us. You understand? So that when we're talking about those beings, that wasn't us. Go also back to the questions to Dr. Malachi Z. York about the beginning and start studying on the Octawad when you get into there. You're talking about us being here 17,250,000 years ago and further back. These are us beings living under the waters, which brings me back right to the formation where it says, "You, Tahites," verse 72. You Tahites were the very first to stand, walk, and speak here. The first creation was in the deep waters. Then you were thrown on the dry Sakat land by natural occurring events in nature, such as tidal waves, hurricanes, and tsunami. Now that's deep. That's the formation. That's verse 72 and verse 73. And then when you get to verse 74, it says, "Remember, this was long before any other humanoids." All right, so the quick answer to your question is answered when you get to verse 74. This was long before any other humanoids. And so then we did that. So yeah, that may have been what we thought before, but then now with the updated, that's why we call it updated, we've been brought up to date so we can add more pieces to it. We got we got more information to receive. He still got to give us 76 trillion years worth of knowledge, and we thought we already had it figured out. What fools we mortals be.
Stephen Cole also asks,
And we're going to make this the last question if there's no other question. Stephen Cole, you get to get the last question.
he also asks, did the Natharu see this earth through bringing the dolphins carrying the seed, or did they personify from the omniverse into a gaseous state, from the etheric state, then into the seed?
That's an interesting question. The reason why I say it's an interesting question is because I'm trying to figure out where you're coming from. When you said, did this happen or did this happen? I guess my question would be, are you saying that both of those particular events didn't also happen? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes, I would have to come back with some more on that. I'm not 100% sure on
You
that.
might need
on how to
to
answer that.
reword that question. Or-
Yeah, maybe if you can reword that question, that may help me, or unless you got something on that right now?
Repeat the question again.
He asked, did the Nadaru seed this earth through bringing the dolphins carrying the seed, or did they personify from the omniverse into a gaseous state, from the etheric state, and then go into the seeds?
All right, so what we were discussing is that having more information the way that we have it now, these beings as Etherians was manifested in a gaseous state with making sure that things were being formed on this planet in one way, but then also when you're dealing with those forces of nature as well, once you get to a different level or layer of existence, like the brother was showing earlier, you had another form in which this happened. So you're talking about two different time periods of these things happening, if that makes sense. So if you have any further questions on it, go ahead and definitely write more down for us so we can get more specific, get to the bottom of that. But in this particular answer, what we'll say is that both of those events are equally true. All right, and with that being said, we'd like to thank everybody for coming out to another Friday question and answer class. We'll definitely be here again on next Friday. So we look to see your smiling faces, bring some people, and bring some questions. And get some books when you go to the table, so when you come back, we can come from the books together. All right, and make sure you bring your pens and pads and all that good stuff too. It's always good for us to be able to get into the notes. It'll help us all out. All right, with that being said, Wu-nuwaup.